Welcome back, y'all. Conservative Brother Daily here, providing your daily dose of an unapologetic black face, trapped in a woke white place, providing common sense in the nonsense world. I'd like to go ahead to my first article today. Detroit native Jalonne White-Newsome, never met her, is Biden's top advisor on environment. All right. So once again, let's once again group all the black people, all the Democrats that have to go along and vote Democrat, and we're once again slowly fading away from our own black agenda, our own priorities to serve the green energy climate change narrative. Okay, so those guys may not be familiar. Bridge Detroit is powered by generous grant support from the Knight. Once again, this is key, y'all. Follow the money. Knight Foundation, Skillman, Kretzky, all these places that are in with the Democratic Party and the elites. But let's just read it here. In elementary school, Jalonne White-Newsome collected air and water samples to science fair projects to measure the impact of pollution on nature. These days, a 45-year-old Detroit native is seeing environmental justice at the White House. White-Newsome has appointed this year as the Council on Environmental Quality Senior Director of for Environmental Justice. As the second person ever hold the title, she advises policy and coordinates efforts of the Biden administration to advance environmental causes around the country. Among her projects, White-Newsome is on Biden's Justice 40 initiative, a plan to direct 40% of the overall benefits of federal investments to marginalized communities overburdened by pollution. Investments could include transit programs, affordable housing, and water infrastructure. Just click on that. I want to maybe read that later. Whoops. I'll read that later. All right. So, in the first few months of the White House, White-Newsome said she developed an understanding. Understanding of the Justice 40, an effort that she rolled out before she took office. President Joe Biden created the initiative. It's one of his first executive orders. Funny, I didn't see nothing for black people. I didn't see no executive order for black people. Asian Americans, they got the executive order like that. We still ain't got no executive order for black people. To lead a program for the Council of Environmental Quality, Martinez held the position for less than a year before stepping down in January without much progress on the initiative. Several months later, White-Newsome was tapped to continue the administration's effort to advance environmental justice. What is environmental justice? What is these words? And those guys need to go look up William D. Lutz. He has a book called Double Speak, came out in 1989, just as relevant today. And if you're too lazy to read the book, I won't follow up. I'll do you a solid. Go to YouTube, search William D. Lutz, Double Speak, C-SPAN interview. The C-SPAN interview from 1989. Like these words like environmental racism, environmental justice, these weren't around even 5 years ago. So they just continue to just create these crises. Now they want to get black folks distracted. One minute we were all upset about Roe v. Wade. This isn't, which in some ways having it in place depopulated, infected us as a community really bad. And now we all right, now just keep fighting other people's battle. Roe v. Wade, all right, now we gotta run over here and be fired up about, oh my God, environmental justice, oh, we're all gonna die. And when you talk the policies that sometimes perpetuate environmental racism and environmental injustice, I get it, Flint. All right, but that ain't really environment, that's corruption. But the most I could say, maybe the Flint poison water in Flint. Really boils down to where the resources flow and where they don't flow. White-Newsome told Bridge Detroit, and this initiative really get federal agencies to think differently. We target 40% of the businesses, of the benefits of all the resources that come into these communities. It is so critical. Now, with a few months the White House under the belt, White-Newsome said some major developments will be rolling out. I don't know if I got time to read all this. All right, blah, blah, blah. Environmental justice screening tool is expected to be released to identify where federal investment should go. But the draft version was met with criticism for excluding race as one of the indicators. There's 2,000 comments. Race has been a strong correlation with environmental justice. 3 decades ago, researchers found that race was the top variable in where commercial hazardous waste facilities were located. Since then, similar stuff. I think it's a race and class issue. That's the biggest thing. For every sort of thing about Oh, well, they're dumping in this neighborhood. A lot of it you find are rural areas, poor white neighborhoods. So I believe it is a race and a class issue. You just notice there's nothing in here about class, because I'm pretty sure if it was a race issue, they wouldn't be dumping this shit up in Brooklyn or a lot of the black elites that live in certain places, like whether it be Martha's Vineyard or, there's a lot of different places that where high end elites live in Atlanta, Martha's Vineyard, but they're not dumping shit there. So it's a race and a class issue, so they're only getting half the memo. Since then, the similar studies have included that the people of color are disproportionately exposed to all sources of air pollution, face more than double the rate of food insecurity, live in neighborhoods, and experience worse extreme heat than they suffer from that. Once again, there's some truth to this, but at the same time, they're not taking everything into account. White-Newsome told Bridget Detroit there is no plan to add this as an added race to this time. Initial study says she found the tool actually captures more census, blah, 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 underlying driving force. Uh, Kind of a scorecard. So they're just splitting hairs at this point. Grants 101 to disadvantaged communities. I'm half aboard, but once again, I just feel like they're talking about some real issues, but then it's coming under the guise of this greener climate initiative. And what you're doing is you're just beholden to government and you're offering them more and more control. Help us, help us, help us, government, bring us in to give us all this stuff and keep us more dependent on you. After years of environmental advocacy and leadership in Detroit, now they're just riding this climate change wave. Anybody ever notice though that it's always been something the past 50, 60 years? First, it was global cooling. Uh, it was either global cooling, it was acid rain in the 90s, global warming, and now climate change. Because once again, you get disasters and different things of all stuff. The Earth has cycles, but they just go with climate change. That can mean anything, any extreme disaster, cold, wind, heat. You could just coin as climate change. So once again, good for her. Comes from great accolades, U of M, all that good stuff. Um, yeah, I just feel like she does have, I'm sure, really great intentions. I don't know her personally, but you just have to sort of think about 5, 10 years down the road. At the end of the day, these are programs that are making our communities more dependent, not independent of these government programs, and doesn't empower us to come up with our own solutions. Once again, social programs to an extent are great, but then we got to look at, okay, you're doing all this to be more dependent on these agencies, and you're not seeing 5, 10 years down the road. Environmental justice runs deep. Okay. It's a race and class issue. They're not going to be dumping these hazardous materials out in the elite Atlanta suburbs. Um, all right, but good for her. So that's all I'm about to say on that. I already spent too much time. All right, next article we got here. Ooh, been hot. Turn on my air. You might hear some air going on in the background, but it's hot out here. So okay. Next thing we got. There's another 15 minutes. Drum roll. All right, 47 members of Congress urge Pentagon to revoke military's COVID vaccine mandate. The vaccine provides negligible benefit to the young, fit members of the armed forces, and the mandate's imposition is clearly affecting the department's ability to sustain combat formations, recruit future talent, and Congress wrote in a September 15th letter, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. All right, so nearly 50 Republican lawmakers. So long. Their articles. All right, ain't so long. All right, so nearly 50 Republican lawmakers, led by Rep. Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana, have called for the U.S. Department of Defense to withdraw its COVID-19 vaccine mandate for military members. About time. You only got rid of all the good ones that aren't just yes men. So now you got all the woke do what they're told people that'll roll over and just do anything the government says. So we're already kind of fucked. Citing concerns over the mandate's impact on the readiness of U.S. armed forces. Yeah, especially because of The other ones getting injured, they don't even know about. In a letter to the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, dated September 15th, the lawmakers, including Reps Chip Roy, Republican from Texas, Thomas Massey, Republican from Kentucky, expressed their grave concerns over the impact of the mandate, particularly with regard to the U.S. Army. As a result of your mandate, 8% of the Army's approximately 1 million soldiers face expulsion. Army recruiters can't meet their FY22 target. Yeah, join us, get the jab. And the Army has cut its projected FY23 in strength by 12,000 soldiers, they wrote, referring to Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Lawmakers noted that the U.S. military currently faces a self-imposed readiness crisis. Citing sparse data, they noted 40,000 National Guardsmen, 20,000 reservationists, and 15,000 active soldiers haven't yet received a COVID vaccine and subsequently being discharged, face discharge from service. Okay, I thought they got rid of them all. All right, I'm still holding out. Respect. The Department of Defense own COVID response page indicates approximately 900,000 soldiers are fully vaccinated. You sheep out of the 1 million soldiers in the Army. And 9 out of 10. They did pretty good. The lawmakers pointed to testimony delivered in July by Vice Chief of Staff, Army General Joseph Martin, before the House Armed Services Committee. During that testimony, Martin said that less than 20,000 people were facing discharge for refusing to take the COVID vaccine, which less than initial figures had officials had provided. Inquiries remain unanswered. However, lawmakers in their letter to the U.S. Department noted the Army hasn't published official data. All right, so this kind of like BS and shitting around. So what I'm gonna do, guys, I'm gonna read through these articles, but I'm gonna give my analysis as we go through it. So you don't have to wait till the very end for me to say what I would think. Basically, Republicans are, obviously I have my problems with the Republican parties. I don't identify as a Republican or a Trumper or a Trump supporter, FYI. But I do agree with them on some things, just how I rarely nowadays agree with Democrats. I think maybe, I don't know. Some waited for a year, blah, blah, blah. But this, once again, at the same time, getting in all this service member shortfall. Yeah, so there's a shortage of members of Army people needed. And what's crazy about this is that, once again, like when you do sign up for the Army, you do give up a certain amount of your rights. You do belong to that government entity. So at one end, it's like, yeah, live and let live. But at the same time, at least these people going into Army know that, hey, the government agency does have precedent over you to take this shot. I don't think it's right, but when you sign up for, there's certain obligations that you give up. So I just think hopefully, it's the deep state is so involved in this. I feel like at this point, not a whole lot that at least people in the Army can do if they're going to get forced to take a shot or not, unless you're going to run and go AWOL. But yeah, it's just a lot of crazy screwed up issues with this. But yeah, other than that, guys, that's all I got. Once again, I know these are only 10, 15 minutes. Only got the 2 articles today. But my goal is to make them longer as time goes on. Still working on my new schedule. And basically, I will be back. Once again, conservative Brother Daily, providing your daily dose of a unapologetic blackface trapped in a woke white place, spreading common sense in a nonsense world. And I'll see you guys next time. See ya!